Joining us now live on New Hampshire Today is the President of the United States, President Donald Trump. Thank you for being with us, Mr. President. First time back on my show and first visit back to New Hampshire since being elected president. What's the message for the big rally?
Well, I'm very excited, and we have 12,000 people at least, I guess, tomorrow. We have a beautiful big arena. You know the arena well, and I think that we're going to have a tremendous time. We're going to do a lot of, I think we're going to have a lot of overflow, so we have big movie screens outside and great music. And it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be, look, the people of New Hampshire are special, and they're incredible people. You remember in the primaries when I won New Hampshire, that was really something special. And I said we're going to keep New Hampshire where it is on the ROTM, on the list. And, you know, they were talking about moving it way down. And I said, that's not going to happen. And I kept my word on the primary list.
Mr. President, how do you respond to some of the recent Democratic criticism? For example, Cory Booker was on my show last week, and he said that you're in part responsible for what happened in El Paso and should actually cancel this New Hampshire rally and get Congress back to act on background legislation.
Yeah, these people are so sad when I watch it. I watched Booker, who's got, I think, almost nothing in the polls. He's like at 1 or 2% if he's that. I watched others, and it's become a soundbite. That's what they want to do. They don't mention Dayton because that was a Warren and Sanders supporter. That was an Antifa person. He liked Antifa, but so they don't mention that. They would, but you know they can't get away with it, and it's a disgrace. When I see it, it's just disgraceful, and they know what they're doing is wrong, but I think the voters get it, 100%. The voters get it. And the rhetoric, all of my rhetoric is that we have to have borders. They want to have open borders. Jack, we have to have borders. You know, we're in countries fighting and pulling out of a lot of countries, frankly, because we're defending the world, and the world doesn't do anything to help us, a lot of the world. But we're defending borders, and other people defend borders, and yet we have open borders here. We're building the wall. It's going up now. You know, we won the big lawsuit 3 weeks ago. The wall is proceeding very rapidly. We need it. We want a strong border. And, you know, you've heard me say a million times, without a strong border, you don't have a country. So Mexico right now is doing a great job because the Democrats refuse to get rid of all the loopholes, and we could do it in 15 minutes, Jack. But they refuse to get rid of the loopholes. They refuse to fix asylum. And that's only for political purposes. But they actually... I actually think that, you know, their whole concept of open borders, I don't believe they believe themselves, but they're doing it only for political reasons.
Mr. President, New Hampshire has one of the lowest unemployment rates, if not the lowest in the country.
Right.
So at the rally, are you going to talk about the merits of the economy that sometimes the national media doesn't focus on?
Well, they don't, Jack, and one of the reasons that I'm calling you instead of calling lots of other people that want, because you're the president, is you've been so fair to me, and we've had great conversations previous to both other elections, and, you know, I really appreciate it, Jack, I have to tell you. We'll be talking about the economy. The economy is phenomenal right now. With a normalized interest rate, we're doing phenomenal. We had a couple of bad days, but we're going to have some very good days because we had to take on China. China was ripping our country like has never happened before in history with any country. They were taking out $500 billion a year, $500 billion, and that's not including intellectual property theft, which they were stealing like crazy. So I had to do it. It should have been done by Obama and Bush and everybody else. It should have been done by long before I came along. But I'm the one that gets stuck with it, and I'm the one that's going to do it. And we're making tremendous progress. China, frankly, would love to make a deal, and it's got to be a deal on proper terms. It's got to be a deal, frankly, on our terms. Otherwise, what's the purpose? Because they were so far ahead from years of bad negotiations and from actually not even having deals. They just came in, and it was a terrible thing they did. They took, and I don't blame China, by the way. You know, I blame the people that led our country. They should have never allowed it. There was no reason for them to allow this to happen. But they were taking out over $500 billion a year. Ridiculous.
President Trump, as you're aware, on New Hampshire Today, we have a Senate race here in New Hampshire coming up. Jeanne Shaheen, the Democrat incumbent, senior U.S. Senator from New Hampshire, running for re-election. I had Corey Lewandowski on my show recently saying he's seriously looking at running. Should Corey Lewandowski run in the Senate primary, will he have your support?
Well, first of all, I have to tell you that I think he would be fantastic. He's got great energy. He's terrific on television. You've seen. He's a really good guy. I like him a lot. I like him. I like his family. I like everything about him. I think Corey is a fantastic guy, and I don't think he's made that decision yet. I will say this: if he ran, he would be a great senator. If he ran and won, he'd be a great senator. He would be great for New Hampshire. He'd be great for the country. He has got a tremendous drive. And that drive would be put to the people of New Hampshire's benefit and the country's benefit. So I haven't heard that he's running yet. I know he's considering it. If he ran, I think it'd be number one. I think it'd be hard to beat in New Hampshire. You know, Corey was there with myself and Hope and a couple of others while we started this whole thing, and we did well. We did well. Corey's a very outstanding guy.
Mr. President, before we let you go, on your way to New Hampshire for the big rally, Southern New Hampshire University Arena, tonight at 7. Mr. President, you've communicated directly to the American people like no sitting president ever has through the use of social media and Twitter. If you want to say it, you go right out, you bypass a lot of the channels. Sometimes people say you go a little far in those communications. Are there any in particular that you feel you have, or do you feel pretty good about what you've tweeted and as a way to communicate with the people?
Well, you know, if I could have pulled back a couple, maybe I would have, you know, in thinking about it. But honestly, and I don't call it Twitter, I call it social media, because it's much more, Twitter's like a typewriter, to put it in an old-fashioned term. I put out a message, and then immediately, if it's, you know, modestly important, not even very important, you know, you look at television, and it's on every major station, we have breaking news, It's actually pretty wild, Jack, I have to tell you. But you put it out, and it's instantaneously across the world. When I was flying to South Korea, I had the idea, you know what, I'm going to South Korea, right next to North Korea, right with the border, right near there. I said there was no way if anybody knows how to get Kim Jong-un, I put out a tweet, hey, I'm going to South Korea. If you want to meet for a couple of minutes, let's meet. And I put it out, and he was calling within 10 minutes. I mean, it's the craziest thing. So it's an incredible, and we had a good meeting. It's an incredible way to communicate for me. Now, I have, you know, tens of millions of followers. It's a way of getting a word out, especially since, and you understand, I've been saying this from the beginning, and this does not include you and others, but it includes plenty. It's fake news. I mean, what they do, the New York Times, the Washington Post, ABC, CBS, NBC, CNN, these are really disgraceful. I mean, and I see it better than somebody would. You know, if you look, and you know, a person sitting there wouldn't know if it's truthful or not because they don't know. I give something out that I know is what I want and what is true, and they will report it. For instance, they can take a tremendous victory that I would have, meaning that the country would have. I would have it for the country. And they make it look as bad as they can possibly make it look. Sometimes they actually can take a victory and make it look like a failure. And they do that whenever they can. It is really dishonest media. I call it fake media, but it's fake news. But I would say that it's an incredible way of communicating. I'm not sure right now I'd be talking to you, at least as president. I'll talk to you anytime, okay, because you're terrific. But I may not be doing it I may be doing it as somebody that tried but didn't make it. The fact is, it's been an incredible way of communicating. And I've said it, that it's a modern-day form of communication that for me really works because I have so many followers. I mean, on one site alone, I have 63 million, but I have numerous sites. I'm in the hundreds of millions of people. And, you know, I can get some phony news and some stories that are a total hoax. The Russian deal was a total hoax, a disgrace. And now I think that might be turning around, and people are not so happy about it. And when I say turning around, on investigate the investigators, how did that whole thing start? It's a disgrace. It was allowed to continue. But I was able to fight back because of social media. And it's been, for me, honestly, Jack, I mean, it's been amazing. Now, I wish I didn't have to use it. And I said this yesterday to somebody, very important interview. I said, who you're now scooping, because that won't be on for a little while. So you're scooping it. But I said, you know, if the news was fair, it was just fair, or as friends of yours would say, fair and balanced, right? If the news was fair, I wouldn't even use it. I wouldn't need it. But in order to fight back and tell the truth, I have to use it. And it's been very effective. There's no question about it.
Mr. President, we're up against the break, and I thank you for joining us in New Hampshire. A real quick final question that many people may not ask you, and you don't get a chance to answer since you've been president. Pretty busy presidency, I might add. If you had to say to a friend or the First Lady or one of your kids or a colleague, what do you think the biggest single achievement thus far in the Trump presidency is? What would you say?
Oh, boy, there's so many. I mean, I don't think anybody's done what we've done in 2.5 years ever. Regulation cuts. The biggest tax cut in history that really spurred the economy. Anwar, you take the largest. They've been trying to get that approved in Alaska for forever. You look at the military. You look at what we've done with VA Choice. We got VA Choice approved. I used to talk about it all the time in New Hampshire. We got VA Choice approved. It's been incredible, an incredible success. It was a year ago. It's been an incredible success. You hear all the good news coming out of the VA and all of the jobs. You know, we set records on jobs. Jack, we have the highest number of people working in the United States right now that we've ever had, almost 160 million people, and unemployment rates at the lowest. So, I mean, we've done a lot, Jack. We've done a lot. It's hard to say one specific thing. 2 Supreme Court judges. In another 90 days, we will have had our 179th federal judge. That's a big difference from what we had before. It's a huge impact on the courts. So we've done a lot. But I'm really happy to say for New Hampshire, because there's so much into the military, VA Choice is really something that is very important and very special. The vets are being treated properly, finally.
All right, Mr. President, thank you. Justin wanted me to ask you if you think Tom Brady's going to grab another ring.
I think so. He's a great quarterback. I mean, there's never been anybody like him, right? There's nobody better. He's a great,
Thank you, Mr.
he's a
President.
great person, and he's a great quarterback.
Thank you for the time,
Jack.
sir. I appreciate it.
You take care of yourself. So long.
Back on New Hampshire Today in a moment.